Hey everyone, welcome to 2021. So it's been a few weeks since I've been here, and I'm excited to catch up with you and get into 2021 and all things special education. There's so much that's happening. For those of you that don't know, my name is Catherine, and I've been in the field professionally for over, 25 years or so. I was a special education teacher, and I'm the founder of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship. We have our last mentorship of the school year is coming up in February. Like, this is it, last one for this entire school year. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek preview tomorrow by giving you an IEP training, showing you what Master IEP coaches do, and then teaching you the first step to becoming a Master IEP coach. So I want to make sure that you have that information, that you know that you can get in on the free training and see all the things behind the scenes to see if this is right for you. That's at masteriepcoach.com. So the link's right here, wherever you're watching it, right above, right below, where you are seeing this now. So I can't wait to connect with you tomorrow. And yes, there is a replay because, yeah, you're busy. I know it. I hope that you can show up live, but if not, you'll get that replay. But let's talk a little bit about some of these critical mistakes that are happening in special education right now. And let's clear up some misconceptions. Of course, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them. And if you post them while I'm live here with you, I will answer as many as possible. Or if you're watching the replay, post in the comments. We'll get to as many as we can. So one of the biggest things going into 2021 is the big mistake of not updating an IEP to reflect meaningful IEP goals. One of the biggest things that we have figured out, at least I hope more IEP teams have figured this out, is that not all IEP goals are created equal, right? And not all IEP goals are going to be useful in the future. And what happened is when we went into shutdowns or school has changed or instruction time is limited, what we figured out is we all looked at the IEPs and said, okay, what do we really need to work on? The downside of that is that the IEP should only have things that we really want to work on. An IEP is never supposed to encompass everything that a child is going to learn. It encompasses like the best of the best, like the most important things that are truly going to make a difference for further education, employment, and independent living. It's making sure that a child's getting their appropriate education to meet their unique needs to prepare them for that future. Now, I didn't make that up. That's an idea law. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you where to look. Okay. Promise you it's in the purpose and findings of idea law that every child gets that free and appropriate public education, which most people know that term, but it has to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, independent living. So with that, we have to make sure that we're putting the most important IEP goals into that actual document. And when we had all this chaos happen over the last, 9 months, we figured out we'll push that goal to the side and we'll work on this one instead. Well, if you can push an IEP goal to the side, it's probably not that important. I know that can be tough to hear. Maybe it's important in the future. Maybe it was important before. Maybe it will be important in a different phase. But if you could absolutely push it aside, like we're not going to deal with that right now, which by the way, you're legally supposed to be addressing everything in the IEP. So when we push things aside, that's not good either. All right. But this has given us some real perspective to reevaluate what is important and what do you really need the school for? Right? Parents, you guys have figured out a lot of things that you guys can do at home. So what do you really need the school for? That stuff should be in the IEP too. The stuff that you can do at home, and I'm not saying that you need to do all the teaching at home. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there are certain things that only school can provide. We have figured those things out through all of this chaos, right? What can the school provide? Those are the things that need to be in the IEP, things that are absolutely not possible to do at home. So let's see, we have a question from Andrea. She says, what's your recommendation for e-learning? That's a big open-ended question. So I'm just going to give you kind of an umbrella answer about e-learning. So e-learning is working beautifully for some students. It's a complete disaster for other students. My big recommendation for e-learning is that it needs to be customized just as much as any other program that would be provided for a child. So a one-size-fits-all e-learning program is not going to work. We have to make sure that we are prioritizing at a whole new level because it is a different learning method for most students, and that we're really focused on what's the desired outcome from this e-learning session. So if it's a login for a class, if it's an inclusion type situation, if it's a special education kind of self-contained room e-learning situation, what's the desired outcome of that learning session? And let's make sure that we're setting the child up for success to get to that desired outcome. Because the desired outcome is not just to sit through circle time like they used to. The desired outcome is following directions and understanding what day of the week it is, or being able to answer questions, or working on the curriculum. Whatever that is, there's a desired outcome. It's not just about showing up and being there. It's about really being able to take something away from it. So let's make sure that it's beneficial for every child before we just say, hey, we're going to do e-learning and you need to show up. So, all right, on that note, I'm going to talk a little bit about e-learning and what's happening right now and what's going to probably be somewhat of a trend going forward. I see a lot of e-learning choices being made, meaning even if the school's going back in person, should we choose to stay e-learning? And I just want to make sure that those things that I just said about making sure you're prioritizing, that we're making sure that we are getting what we need out of it, that we're working on the most important IEP goals, that we're using the school resources, even through e-learning, as best as possible. So if you choose to stay in e-learning, some of us don't have a choice, but if you do choose to stay in it, please make sure that you have all of those priorities covered, even more so. Because a lot of times what's happening is some kids are going back to school in the same school district, some are e-learning, and the e-learning kids are not getting that individualized program like the kids who are on site at school. So we have, let's see, Steve says, hey, Steve, what are your thoughts on an evaluation that was requested being done in a virtual manner and not face-to-face? I'm okay with it under certain circumstances, meaning if we believe that we can get some true data that can reflect where the child is at right now, absolutely, let's do it. If that's not an option, remember that you can always go for a creative solution, meaning if school's not doing anything in person and a virtual evaluation is not going to get you any true data at all, is there a place near you, like a third-party place that is offering some walk-in services, meaning like, is there a speech therapy office that's open that you can go get a speech eval? Is there occupational therapy, or is there a neuropsychologist? Is there another option that's not the school district, that's not virtual, that is a creative solution in between? That could work too. But I'm also seeing some good numbers comes to, Steve says in school 100% of the time. So if you're in school, let's see, but it was requested to be done virtual instead of in school. Not sure how that, like why would you have to do it virtual if you're going to be in school 100% of the time? But the bottom line with evaluations, whether they're in person at school or they're virtual, again, we talked about that desired outcome. What are we looking for? And are we setting the child up for success so they can demonstrate to us what their current skills are so we can address the deficits appropriately? Let's see. Andrea says, how should the school handle loud kids during e-learning? Well, we have mute buttons for that. There's a lot of talk about mute buttons in the teacher community because they're doing a lot of, this is how you mute, this is how you unmute. Now, are they unmuting because they have the control to do that? That's a classroom management issue in a technology thing, because there's a lot of ways to make sure that a child cannot speak out of turn when you're doing e-learning. Now, that being said, is it just loud kids? Or is there a true possible social emotional need that's not being met, which welcome to 2020. There was a lot of social emotional needs that were not met with that. And do you need to get the social worker involved who can teach more of classroom etiquette in the virtual learning environment? So that is something that you need to really consider is why is the behavior happening? Do they not know better? Like they don't have the skill to do it, or they have the skill to not be the loud child, but they're choosing to be the loud child, which tells me that there's something else missing that maybe we can address in a different way. So Steve just said exactly, like, because I said it didn't make sense. Why are they asking you to do an evaluation virtually if they're in school 100% of the time? So yeah, Steve, doesn't make sense. So either if you want it done in person and they're in person, then it should be in person. But again, if they're not willing to do that, offer them the solution of going to a third-party person if they're not comfortable doing the evaluations. I don't understand why they would do that. Then see if you can find a compromise in there. Let's see. We have Patricia who says, Central Florida, here we are continuing to do e-learning and it's been going well. Our teacher has gone above and beyond for the class, which is a K-5 class. The downfall has been with children receiving services and appropriate fine arts. So with the children receiving services and appropriate fine arts, does it mean that the children are not receiving like their other services too, like their speech, their OT, their and then there are fine arts? I'm assuming that you're just talking about like the general education classes. They're not being included in that piece. So that's something that falls under having an appropriate education and equal access to their education as their same age peers. And if they need support to access those, then you need to be requesting that in a formal format, which would be considered prior written notice, fancy terms for putting together a really nice parent advocacy letter that collaborates with the team to let them know the expectations. So she says, no speech, no OT, and then PE and art and music. So yes, there needs to be a letter. You know what? And I'm going to talk about those. Patricia, I hope you're signed up for tomorrow. That's at masteriepcoach.com. So just go to masteriepcoach.com, sign up. I'm going to be teaching about all of these things in a bit more detail tomorrow and the Master IEP Coach method on how to write that letter and what needs to be included into it, because that's a huge Master IEP Coach method that is working phenomenally. It has for decades. It's one of my oldies but goodies when it comes to making sure that everybody's on the same page is this format that I'm going to teach tomorrow. But you'll find out more about the Master IEP Coach program and how to get templates and how to make all of this happen. But basically, you need to put in writing that your child's not getting equal access to their education and that you need to explore options to ensure that your child's unique needs are being met while accessing the services. So let's see, we have, you're not alone in this, as I chuckle a little bit, because we just got a new LEA for the school. The communication is terrible, no matter what I've done from the district down. So there's a formal format of a letter that can be written several times to create a very strategic timeline that then delivers results. So I know that sounds kind of vague. It's because it's a pretty deep conversation. Again, we'll cover some more of that at masteriepcoach.com. And then I'll show you how to take that even to the next level and be able to help you get that communication. One of my favorite things is when a client would call me up and they would say, I'm trying everything to get the conversation going. And she's even saying, I made sure to let parents know. Yeah, you know what, Patricia, make sure you show up tomorrow, because if you're being the voice for other parents too, and you're letting them know what's happening, that's what a Master IEP coach can do in the community in a wonderful, positive way and see results. So like I said, this client, they'd call me, my favorite clients that I would work with, they'd call me up and they'd say, listen, I hear that you can get some results. I've been trying, I've written like 6 emails. I've delivered like 3 letters. I've had 2 meetings and I'm still not getting anywhere. And there's a very specific format and there's really significant keywords to use in that. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. It's just special education strategy that works. And they would get a response from the school within 24 hours. And they'd say, why was that so hard? And it's not that it was hard. It was that there's certain trigger words that will activate a sequence, basically, of communication and results to help make that happen. So again, come on over to masteriepcoach.com, and then we can go into that further. And if you can come live tomorrow, be sure to ask, remind me that you're there. And then I will make sure that I kind of, call you out as in, Patricia, you were looking for this, okay? Because tomorrow's when I have the time to go over that a bit more. Okay, everybody, I hope to see you tomorrow at masteriepcoach.com. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. At masteriepcoach.com. Again, sign up for the live, ask questions if you can attend live. And if you can't make it live, I'm going to send you the replay. So this is for parents, teachers, admins, therapists. Anybody who sits at an IEP table can learn 3 critical IEP mistakes that are happening right now and can be fixed pretty easily. And you can also figure out that first step to become a master IEP coach. All right, everyone, cheers to 2021. Here we go. I can't wait to continue working with you.